In November 2022, one person typed 9 words into a fake Twitter account and erased $15 billion in market cap right before launch. The tweet was, "We're excited to announce insulin is free now." That one tweet dropped Eli Lilly's stock by 4.37% the next day. That is not chaos. That is not a crisis. That is a pattern. Hi, I'm Wilsar Johnson. I write and think about branding, about narrative, and about strategic digital communications. This is the 3rd video in my Misinformation series for my Wilsar Johnson blog. In my first 2 videos, I covered the why and the what. In this one, I cover the how. I break down the 5 stages of a misinformation attack so commerce professionals can see one while it's still moving. Here are the 5 stages of a misinformation attack and the signal to watch out for at its stage. Stage 1 is the hook. If you've watched my last 2 videos, you know that every misinformation attack needs an anchor. It almost never starts from nothing. It attaches to a real event, a genuine grievance. For example, like when people are really angry at a nonprofit leader or a nonprofit or philanthropic organization, or something a CEO said or did, or a breaking news moment. And that is because real events carry a lot of attention and emotion that the fake story alone cannot manufacture. The fake narrative don't replace the real event. It reframes it. The Eli Lilly story worked because insulin pricing is a real documented grievance online and in real life. The fake claim landed because there was already an audience ready to believe it. That's why Bernie Sanders tweeted about it. That's why it moved. The hook isn't the false claim. The hook is the real wound the false claim attaches to. Here is a signal in this stage to look out for. The claim arrived fast and fits the moment too neatly. That fit is not an accident. Something is brewing. Pay attention to it. Stage 2 is the frame. Once a narrative has an anchor, it gets compressed into a meme, a screenshot, a short clip, a one-line accusation, something that travels without the context that would complicate it. Think about every false narrative you've seen spread quickly. It was never a paragraph. It was a sentence, a short clip, something you could repost before you finish thinking about it. That's by design. The goal is not to convince people of a complicated argument. It is to give them something they can repeat without thinking too hard about it. The signal in this stage is the message is suspiciously clean. No sourcing, no qualifications, just high outrage. It fits perfectly in a single post. Be suspicious about that. Pay attention to it. The 3rd stage is the flood. In this stage, the narrative seeds across accounts simultaneously through coordinated accounts, bots, influencers, and ordinary people who have been nudged into sharing it. The goal in this stage is volume, not persuasion. Here is the distinction that matters most here. Virality looks like one thing catching fire, one post, one moment, spreading outward. Coordination looks like several fires starting all at once. No clear origin, just the same claim, same phrasing, same image, appearing fully formed in multiple places at the same time. Most monitoring tools cannot tell the difference between virality and coordination because they measure volume and sentiment for marketing, which is a good thing. I will never discount that. That is important. But they don't measure for behavior or patterns. That gap is one of the most dangerous gaps in digital communications right now. The signal to look out for in this stage is identical language across unrelated accounts in a tight window. That is not virality. That's a flood. You are drowning. Stage 4 is delusion. And it is my favorite stage because it's the most interesting. This is the stage where most organizations lose. By the time a false claim has flooded enough accounts, people stop asking whether it is true and start assuming it must be. Repetition creates the feeling of consensus. A claim you've seen 10 times feels more established or more real than one you're hearing for the first time, regardless of whether either one is sourced. Researchers call this the illusory truth effect. A 2024 review in Current Opinion in Psychology confirmed it. Repeated exposure to a statement increases its perceived credibility, even when people have been told the claim is false, even when it contradicts everything they already know. Read that again. Run it back. Let's run that back. You can tell people something is fake, something is false, and the repetition will still make it feel true over time. This is not gullibility. It is a design vulnerability in humans, and misinformation campaigns are built around it. Here is the implication that I have been discussing in this series. The goal of a misinformation attack is rarely to make everyone believe one specific false thing. The goal is to create enough confusion, enough noise, enough doubt that people stop trusting their version of reality entirely. That is much harder to correct than a single false claim, and it is what makes these attacks genuinely dangerous. The signal in this stage is the claim feels established before any credible source has confirmed it. Nobody is citing a source anymore. They're just repeating it like it's settled. That feeling is manufactured. Stage 5 is the mutation. When a brand or organization finally makes a correction, a well-constructed misinformation attack does not collapse. It shifts. It mutates. New wording, new screenshots, new memes, a slightly different version of the same allegation. Sometimes it moves to a different platform where the correction hasn't reached. The correction is always chasing a version of the story that no longer quite exists. Barilla experienced this. A false claim spread in Italy that their pasta was contaminated with insects. Barilla issued a direct denial, confirmed in their own press release. The claim kept circulating. The denial didn't kill the narrative. It just forced the narrative to find a new shape. This is why we issued a correction or we released a statement. It's not a strategy. The signal in this stage to look out for is every time you address the claim, a slightly different version reappears. If your correction keeps being accurate, but somehow keeps not landing, you are in stage 5. You are underwater. You are drowning. You are in it. Sorry. The guy from Queens didn't take down Eli Lilly because he was sophisticated. He did it because nobody was watching for coordinated behavior. They were watching sentiments. They were watching volume. By the time the volume registered in their monitoring tools, the damage was done. But also, knowing these 5 stages doesn't stop every attack, but it stops the most dangerous part, the surprise. Once you can name the stage you're in, you can make a decision to ignore it, to document it, to correct it, or to escalate it. What you cannot do is mistake a coordinated attack for organic criticism and respond to it the wrong way. The question I left in the article, and I'm leaving it here too. If an attack on your organization started tonight, right now, which stage would you catch it at? If you're not sure, it's time to get to work and build your misinformation strategy. The full article with all my sources is in the description. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I read them, and I'll see you in the next one.